Well, Linda only has a couple more weeks of light duty as we draw to the end in the next couple of weeks of the Beatitudes. Blessed are the pure in heart. The pure in heart. I shared on Facebook and shared in a sermon here before that phrase that won't seem to let me go from radio classics that I listen to all the time. When that fictitious reporter, Randy Stone on Night Beat, comes to the end of an episode where there is a lie exposed, a conspiracy involving a powerful father and daughter. And he says that line that I don't know what it was. It will not let me go, especially in today's context. The line is, they were confused with their facts because they were confused in their hearts. I don't know if that kind of settles in with anybody or not. But it sure settles in with me. They were confused with the facts because they were confused in their hearts. Katharos has a connotation in Greek of meaning clean or pure. So I want to go back, even though I built it into the call to worship. I know all the statistics that advertising people go by. That is, how many times they need to say the same thing to us over and over again to get us to pay attention. Well, we don't have that much time, but let's just do a repeat as I lift up Psalm 24. Who shall ascend the hill of the Lord? And who shall stand in God's holy place? Those who have clean hands and pure hearts, who do not lift up their souls to what is false, and do not swear deceitfully. They will receive blessing from the Lord and vindication from the God of their salvation. Such is the company of those who seek God, who seek the face of the God of Jacob. Jesus, no doubt, had this in his mind as a backdrop. My New Testament professor in seminary, who was Swiss, would always say, we must remember that Jesus was a Jew. And he would say that over and over and over again because he wanted to drive into our minds that you cannot study the New Testament scriptures without understanding who Jesus was in terms of his religious background and who many of those were who heard him as we read through the Gospels and the filters on their ears. If the ones who see God must be innocent of any moral failures, clean hands. My mom always said, let me see your hands. We got ready to eat. Oh, I washed them. Well, let me see your hands. I just went to the bathroom, I washed them. Clean hands. Free of any moral failings. And of course my mom thought clean hands were about moral failing. But also evil intentions. If the only way we're going to get to see God is with clean hands and without evil intentions, how in the world, I sometimes would ponder, am I going to get an opportunity to see God? And I'm always grateful that I pastor a congregation that never asks itself those things. but I do. That sense of absolutely being pure in heart. And that's a haunting phrase for me. You know, when Matthew sets this stuff out and uses some of these words, trying to clarify Jesus's, when we ponder the psalmist's words and then we come to Matthew's words and we try to get clarification on it, what does it really mean? That is, the Hebrew word for pure also can mean unalloyed. It's not mixed in. What Jesus may have been implying here, probably was implying, is blessed is the one who's not, and I'm going to use James's language here, double-minded. I've met plenty of people in the world who seem to be double-minded. There was a guy who, his whole family would sing gospel music, and when I was young, I thought they were just so great, and then as I got older and I was working in the mill in college, and I saw he was one of those middle management types, and he pretty much treated us all equally, that is, like dirt. And I had the audacity one time of asking him, as a person who testified about Jesus' love all the time, how it was that he seemed to be so, I didn't use the term mean, I was thinking mean, I was thinking rattlesnake-like. How he could be so uncaring and nasty to those people who worked under him. And he says, well, what took place on Sunday was Sunday. What took place on Monday morning, that was a whole different thing. Double-mindedness. A person who lacks a central integrity that holds them in a moral course, that keeps them focused upon right and wrong, kindness and grace, and all that stuff that's supposed to be centered within those who are following Jesus. Jesus also said, well, you know, you can't follow God and mammon. Where's that, James? Double-mindedness, if you will. Søren Kierkegaard, the great Danish philosopher, once wrote a book that seemed to me said it all. He didn't need to really write the book, he just needed to get the title published. Purity of heart is to will one thing. Jesus is trying to say to those who will listen, blessed are the pure in heart, because they are the ones who will see God. The heart in much ancient wisdom literature was the organ, so to speak, which was the center of one's capacity to see not just the facts, but to see the truth. It was the ability to understand how one could feel and how one could act and how there needed to be consistency with that, but also understood that it was possible to walk along the path having some clarity about one was going, even as one understood that there were other paths that may in fact have lead to truth or lead somewhere else. The center of one's emotional being, perception of what is true, what is beautiful, what is of God. And so when I came to this text, all I kept thinking is how many people that I run into day after day who seem to feel that they have clarity. And they mistake clarity with purity. I often say I grew up with people who were plagued by the I knows. And I don't know if you, maybe that's just a southern thing. Okay. And that is, you would be talking to people and they'd say, well, I don't care about that. I know so-and-so and so-and-so. And so you try to say, yes, but no, I know. They have absolute clarity about what they believe. The problem is that they fail to understand there's a difference between having clarity and seeing truth. And therein lies the problem. We live in a society of people who are so certain, have such clarity about their central beliefs, but they seldom take time to struggle with the issue and walk the path and open themselves to the Scriptures and the Spirit to perceive whether or not, in light of Jesus' teachings, there's truth. For those who are the pure in heart, we're very careful if we are at all trying to be the pure in heart. We're awful careful about what we claim to have clarity about. Because it's always easy, hubris can distort our clarity. And we miss truth along the way. It's also kind of difficult because we read in the Scriptures also that, nobody gets to see God and live. Well, there was Moses, but he just got to see God behind. But he came down the mountain glowing, just getting to look at God's behind. But it says no one gets to see God, and live. But here's the thing. They shall see God. It is my conviction as I read through those Scriptures that there are moments when we get clarity that has to do with truth. What Jesus is really teaching and what Jesus is really saying about how we see each other in the image of God, about how we treat each other as God's people, about how Jesus desires mercy and justice rather than sacrifice or religious ritual. As we read those and walk that journey, there are times when we open ourselves and we're singing a hymn, or we're sitting in a beautiful space, or we may walk into a cathedral somewhere and be overwhelmed by the art and the beauty, and in those moments we get the quick glimpse of the holy. Just when things align the right way and we open ourselves to the possibility of being one with that holy. Rejoice. Be blessed, because the pure of heart are those who are truly blessed. Those who try to find their way forward in seeking truth in humility and perceiving that wisdom and truth flows from the one who is behind and within all of creation. I would like to have a story. Last week I was able to use my mom as a merciful person. I'd like to have a story about someone who so clearly is pure in heart. And there are people that I have experienced. There are my spiritual heroes, if you will, and sheroes, who I believe walk their lives in such a way that much of the time they are walking in holy places. But I've also found that they're a little bit like me. This makes me feel better. They're a little bit like me in the sense that in a moment of anger or frustration, they can wander from that path just like I can or you can. So being pure in heart isn't about finishing something. I grew up in a religion that says, once you're saved, by God, excuse the expression, but that's how they said, you're saved. It's over. It's done with. For me, I am always in the process of being shaped by the holy. And always in the process of finding when clarity and truth come together. It's what I pray for daily. It's what churches need always to be praying for, especially churches, I shouldn't be saying this, especially churches who buy whole hog what their pastor says. Did I just say that? Walk the journey. Open yourselves to the possibility that you may get a glimpse of what the whole looks like. Seek to have integrity in your faith journey, that you may be one of the blessed ones who in those moments of grace truly are among the pure in heart. For you, brothers and sisters, you will see God